God, we know that your presence is in this room, God. And I know you're blessing this night. God, I pray that you open our hearts and our minds for what we're about to receive. We love you, Lord. In your mighty name, Jesus. And everyone said, Amen.
Amen. Amen. Hey, why don't we just thank the band real quick for putting in the time and hanging out with us. What is it going to take to get you guys to come hang out up here with us? We have all this space and everyone spreads out. It's all right. Hey, we have a special person, special friend that will be speaking tonight. For those of you guys who don't know, Caleb has been a leader with us for almost 3 years now. And he's just a really, really genuine man of God that loves God. And I've just seen him just conduct his life in such a way that just points glory back to the King. And so when he, expressed interest in coming and sharing, and I said, man, what an awesome privilege it is to welcome him. So would you guys do me a favor and please welcome Caleb Wilson here with us today. And he's going to be sharing with us about the good King.
Thanks, Chris, so much. I don't know why Chris keeps calling you guys up closer. You're a little scary. I'd rather you guys move to the back of the auditorium. Already freaking out a little bit. That's all right. Well, let's go ahead and just start in a quick word of prayer, if you don't mind. Just bow with me. Dear God, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the talent that we've had on stage tonight, just for to be able to lead us in worship, to be able to put you first in who we worship, God. Thank you so much for just this place to be able to meet together, to be in your presence, to be able to love you, to be able to do it openly. We're so grateful for that opportunity. I'm so grateful just to be able to learn more about you. Just if it's in the word I say tonight, God, or if it's just in a conversation that happens in the foyer or in here, or just a worship song that hits somebody, just allow your word to be heard tonight, God.
The next slide.
Thank you so much for being here, being with us, and for your power just to be able to be all around us tonight.
Yeah.
Thank you for all things. In your name we pray.
Okay, that's good.
Amen. Amen. Well, guys, first of all, I am Caleb, so if I haven't had a chance to meet you already, I need to get to do that sometime. So, but anyways, I grew up in a small town in Virginia, and by ways of getting here, I ended up becoming a golf professional. I moved to California, and then I moved to Long Island 4 years ago. I got a chance to meet Chris, and it's meant a lot to me being a part of this group. So I've been really so blessed to just get a chance to meet Chris and Teresa and see what they've built, through God's work 3 years ago from what this place started like. So I'm a product of just being up here right now, so humbling being in front of you. So just so grateful to be here and to share a little bit of my story, but more God's story. If you want to go ahead and put up the first slide here. This is my family up here. This was a few years back, but that is me on the far left, as you can see, the really handsome one. And then the next one that's much more handsome is my younger brother. And then you've got my sister-in-law, my brother Josh, my mom, and my dad. And I was raised in this awesome Christian home. I was so blessed. My parents really had their ducks in a row. They wanted to make sure that their kids were taken care of. They had a set of rules that they put in place for us to make sure that we were taken care of. And that was for our mental health, our spiritual health, our physical health. And so you can throw up the next picture here. So let's go back in time just a little bit. This is not the perfect time frame, but so you can see my brother Josh, he seems to be missing something, but that's the one in the middle there. The cutest one on the right to me, and then Seth there. I've become a little bit better dresser since my parents. But I want to tell a quick story about just how my parents' authority affected us. Basically, first of all, they gave us different things like don't play in the street. Don't talk to strange people in minivans. Don't eat blue bread or yellow snow. Those type of things. But they also had one important motto. That was garbage in, garbage out. So that means that whatever you put into your mind, you're going to put out into the world. So just trying to keep that in mind throughout all of our upbringing. That's what we were trying to figure out. And so when my older brother and I, he went away, the blonde-haired one in the middle with the missing tooth, he and I used to be mischievous and want to go against that authority.
30-something slides.
And one time we were up in Maine visiting my grandparents. We were upstairs in their upstairs bedroom of my great-grandma who had passed away, and we snuck away to watch TV. And we weren't supposed to watch a certain TV show just to protect our minds, and that was a show called Goosebumps. Who knows what Goosebumps is? Yeah. It's basically just an intense Scooby-Doo, you know? It's not that bad for you. I don't know why we were so protected from it, but I was sheltered. So, but that is one thing I wasn't supposed to watch. But lo and behold, we cut on the TV, and what is playing? Goosebumps. And it happens to be a werewolf episode. And I was in the middle of the wilderness up in Maine with the upstairs creepy bedroom where my great-grandma passed away, and we decided to watch this show. It was a great idea at the time. And so we start watching this show, and right as the climax of it happens, this werewolf jumps up on the ledge of the upstairs room, mind you. Right as that happened, God decided to send a gust of wind through the window upstairs and suck the bathroom door shut right behind my brother and I. Just wham! Just shut right there. I took off, going down the hall. I mean, I left my brother there to be eaten by a werewolf. I did not care. No longer was he my brother. He was just a meal. So I run down the hall, I take it right, I'm just about to go down the stairs and something grabs me by the neck. Something, I'm thinking, okay, it's got my brother and me, we're both out. You know, this is where it ends. And it was my brother who threw me on the ground. He had caught up to me and threw me on the ground. He took off running down the steps. I try to catch myself and I trip. And I fall all the way down the steps and then I hit the wall, and I quickly got reoriented, jumped up, and took off running towards the kitchen where my mom was, and we slid into the kitchen in our socks, and my mom, with concern and frustration, said, "What on earth is going on?" My brother and I looked at each other, looked back at my mom, at the same time we said nothing. Somehow there's a werewolf upstairs, but nothing's going on. No, we weren't afraid of the hypothetical werewolf anymore at that time. We were afraid of my mom and her authority. She said not to watch it, and when we decided to go against authority, I ended up looking a little bit foolish. I tripped down the stairs, got a bruise. That's all I got out of that drill. So that story and bringing about authority, I want to talk about the ultimate authority tonight. Let's talk about God's good authority, okay? Do you guys know what this book is? How do you know? It doesn't say it on there. Mine doesn't have a cover. Okay, fair enough. This Bible here has tons of amazing stories, tons of true stories. But it also has illustrations that help us grasp certain concepts. And one of the best illustrations God uses to help us grasp his authority is the image of a king. We talk about his love a lot. And that is super important, but it's also so important to understand that where that love comes from is from a position of high authority. So that's what we'll be talking about this week and next week. So first of all, what is authority? Authority is, by definition, the power or right to give orders, make decisions, and enforce obedience. It's having the high ground, per se. It's power, it's control. Jesus says in Matthew 28:18, this is what he says: "All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me." Not me, it's been given to Jesus. Okay? All authority. That means birds, trees, dogs, cats, wind, waves, planets, people. All authority. He also has other powerful titles in the Bible. And if you look up here, he's also been called a creator, a ruler, a lord, and a king. There's one verse I want to camp out on for just a second. That's Revelation 19:16. It says, "On his robe and on his thigh, he has this name written: King of Kings and Lord of Lords." We just sang about King of Kings. It's important enough to mention. It says, on his robe and on his thigh, he has this name written: King of Kings and Lord of Lords. It's important enough to put on his body that that's a title. So we should really focus in on that. But it's not just a king. It's a king of all kings. There's nobody above that. He sets the tone of that time. A king was the highest authority of anybody in the world. So he's established that. So that if you want a moment, just jot this down. If you're thinking about getting a tattoo, this is your moment. Write down this verse. Okay, Jesus might have had a tat. Okay, this is him coming back in the future. So this is This is Jesus. He's got that written across there. Now just remember that if you ever try to use this as your opportunity to get a tattoo, just remember that like your mom or a friend might try to convince you otherwise, saying, well, Jesus' tattoo might not ever fade or get old, and the narrative of his tattoo will never change. He will always reflect what is written on his body. He will always reflect what is written on his body. That's important to think about if you're going to make that decision. Now that God says he is a king, what does that mean? You guys go ahead and shout out a couple things about his character. What would a king's character be like, whether it's good or bad? Go ahead and shout out a few things. Kind. Just. There's some images up here to help you. Okay. You can keep going, Kenny. Yeah. Okay. Keep on going. Shout out to South Africa. That's great. There is Prince Harry. Keep naming some things. Keep naming some words. Come on, what would describe a king? Yeah, you can keep on going, Kenny. Keep on flipping. Yep, so we got LeBron. Yep. Yep, the next one's pretty good. Yep, he's a king. This guy's a king. Yep, now we're getting into some deep stuff. Yep. I'm sorry about the words being cut off a little bit. That's a really bad dude right there. So you go to the last one, Kenny. So, there's different types of kings out there, different things that have shaped our image of what a king looks like. So I'm going to try to help with that tonight, just in God's word, what he says he is like. Okay? There's two different things. There's a good list of qualities and a bad list of qualities of what a king can be. And they're up here now. You can put them up. You can look, there's loyalty, trust, responsibility, power, just, freedom, reverence, fear, sovereignty. Even fear on there you would think would be on the bad quality side. And would you want a king that nobody was afraid of? I wouldn't. I wouldn't want that type of king. I want somebody that was respected that much, that was afraid of, was that powerful. I want to look at the bad qualities for a second. So who in here is perfect? Okay, good. Not me either. I am not. I am corruptible. And as I gain things, I tend to lose focus. When I start to get things, if I get a new car, I don't want to get my old car again. I want to keep on gaining. I don't ever want to lose status. So it's not the fact that we gain things that is the bad thing. It's when we start to expect things. It's not an issue in the gaining. It's an issue in the heart condition. It's when we deserve something instead of being grateful for what we have. That's the type of change that happens when I start to gain things. As these leaders start to gain things, they start to abuse them, and those other qualities start to seek in there, start to slip in there, and then the way that they start to lead changes. Let's talk about a king tonight, though, that is not corruptible. Okay, somebody that's not corruptible. And that's God and his kingdom. See, God cannot be corrupted by power because he has all the power already. Okay? The fact that he calls himself a king instead of a dictator is important. It means that he believes in freedom. He doesn't demand our loyalty or our love. He requests it. He welcomes us. And as much as we reject his kingdom, he still wants us back. This is a loving king. This is a good king. See, when we have a chance on earth to choose his kingdom, it's here now. It's here forever. From the day we're born to the day we depart, God has a search party looking for us. And it's not just a group of random servants or a bunch of angels trying to find us. It's Jesus Christ himself that's on that search party. He's at the head of that search party. Jeff Bethke, who's an awesome spoken word evangelist, has said this. He said that religion is man searching for God. Christianity is God searching for man. Religion means that we're doing the work to deserve what we get. Christianity is saying that Jesus already did that for us. In the process of Jesus trying to find us in the search party, he was tortured. He was crucified for our behalf. His flesh died in the process of trying to get us back to safety. The only thing he won't do is force us to come home. See, a true king would die for his people. All these other kings you saw up here, not kings that would die for their people. A true king would die. The images you saw before will shape our perspective of what a king looks like. So when God uses the image of a king to describe his authority, it's easy to think of him as a big man on a throne with white hair, looks like Santa Claus, has some type of pitchfork thing. I don't know what that's ever called. But sitting on a cloud, a scepter. Good to know. It's a scepter, guys. But we need to understand this. This is something that I didn't really grasp, and I'm still trying to grasp. But that God is spirit. He's not bound by a measuring tape. Okay, He is not bound by just a physical condition. But He chose to show His people as deep a physical love that we could witness in the flesh. So He manifested Himself as Jesus Christ to live and die for the purpose of saving His people. The images of a king, and the only image that we could really have of that, the physical image we have of the one true king, would be Jesus. That is the image of a true king. I want to talk about real quick a story in the Bible of a guy that ran into Jesus. It was a centurion. Okay, a centurion, as you all know, because everybody knows what a centurion is. Raise your hand if you know what a centurion is. Liars. I did not know what a centurion was. No, maybe you guys already read this. But a centurion is the person in the Roman army. He's over 100 people. Okay, so he is like the general over 100 people. Okay, so this is this man who, in reality, is pretty high up in society. I'm going to go ahead and read the verses to you just for a second. We'll stop as we go. But when Jesus had entered Capernaum, a centurion came to him asking for help. "Lord," he said, "my servant lies at home paralyzed, suffering terribly." Jesus said to him, "Shall I come and heal him?" The centurion replied, "Lord, I do not deserve to have you come under my roof, but just say the word, and my servant will be healed." Wow, it's really good. So let's stop there for 1 second. This guy is super humble. He knows that Jesus is somebody special. Jesus had a rep, guys. It wasn't like this guy just walked up to him and said, "This guy in this robe looks like he's got magic powers. I'm going to talk to him." Jesus had a rep. There's a reason why our calendar is based off of a certain person. It's 2019 right now since Jesus Christ. Okay, He had incredible abilities because He is God. But this man was so humble, he figured out that he couldn't even have Jesus under his roof. Like that's what he revered him that much. Jesus, and it goes on saying, "For I myself," this is what the centurion says, "for I myself am a man under authority, with soldiers under me. I tell this one, go, and he goes. I tell that one, come, and he comes. I say to my servant, do this, and he does it." When Jesus heard this, he was amazed. Do you guys want to amaze Jesus? You guys want to amaze Jesus? That doesn't sound exciting to most of you out there. There's only, I believe, 2 times in the Bible where Jesus was amazed. And this is one of them. This guy, I'd love to have been in those shoes. Jesus heard this, and he was amazed, and he said to those following him, "Truly, I tell you, I have not found anyone in Israel with such great faith." This guy recognized his authority. He first said, "For I myself am a man under authority." The centurion realized that the ultimate authority is Jesus Christ. God's kingdom is present now on earth. That he needed to put his trust in Jesus' power, but also that he was given some authority to do his job and to be a reflection of Christ in the process. Christ actually, later on, says that, then Jesus said to the centurion, "Go, let it be done just as you believed it would." And the servant was healed at that moment. So that's the centurion. That's someone that's high up in society, somebody that's actually above Jesus in society. He was a Roman soldier, Jesus was a Jew. He could have went up to Jesus and said, "Listen, guy, I need you to heal this man." And Jesus, by law, would have had to have been like, "Okay," even though that's a weird request from anybody else, but he would have had to abide by that. But this man understood that. He took himself and realized that Jesus had authority over death, and that he needed to get below Jesus and understand that he could do it, but that the centurion could not. There is another kingdom, however, that the centurion could have followed at that point in time. That's not, you might think, okay, well, I I know it's God's kingdom, so it's probably got to be the devil's kingdom, right? No, it's our kingdom. Our kingdom looks really enticing. It has a lot of fun things, but this is not an eternal kingdom. It's finite. It fades quickly. It's chaos. The army seems really nice. They're cool people, but they're unreliable, and they seem like they have drinking problems, to be honest. The economy is all right, but on the verge of collapse. The food does taste really good, but it always gives me stomach problems. It's unclean. It's easy to get sick. And above all else, the king is not powerful. He's irrational. He's emotional. He's fast to anger. He's slow to forgive. And he's caught up in sin. He's greedy, lustful, prideful, among other qualities. And if you're a lady tonight, I know we're talking about kings. You can just replace it with queens tonight if you like. You can also be greedy, lustful, and prideful if you like. So that's an option. But sometimes, no matter if you're he or she, we try to do good things. And when we do it selflessly, that's when it's God's image shining through us. When we're doing it selflessly. When we're doing it selfishly, and we're trying to get something good out of it, that's back to our flesh. And when we're trying to get good out of just doing good, just for ourselves, and that is our flesh taking over. That's our kingdom. That's my kingdom. My kingdom lacks eternal perspective. I'm a greedy king in my pride, thinking that my kingdom could potentially be as good or even close to as good as God's, is ultimately going to lead to my fall. And hopefully we can realize that before we stop acknowledging our invitation into God's kingdom and we settle with our own. When we reject good authority, we'll end up bruised. Just like when I decided to protect my parents and then decided to go running down the hall, trip up, fall down the stairs. I knew that my parents wanted me to be safe, physically, mentally, spiritually. I knew that. They made that clear to me. But I wanted the immediate satisfaction of a thrill, and I got it. I got chased by a werewolf. It turned out to be my brother. My brother told me a couple days ago, actually, that I told him that story. And you know when you're reflecting on a story that you tell like a family member and they see it totally differently? That's what happened. I saw horror, like just freaking out. He saw humor. He thought that me running down the hall was really hilarious, and that he would throw me on the ground and make me scared. So this is a total side note, by the way. I didn't plan on telling this, but I was just frustrated when he told me that. See, our Heavenly Father wants us to recognize His good authority and the fact that He wants us to be healthy in all aspects of life. He's trying to say to us, lay to rest your kingdom. It's not going to last. Please join mine. Try to have eternal perspective. I know you like being in control, but let me tell you something. This is what God's saying. Your kingdom sucks. Okay? It really sucks. It's got some immediate benefits, but it really sucks. Have an eternal perspective. Have an eternal mindset the best we can, because that's what we'll have if we follow God. Actually, Emmanuel asked me this the other day. He said, why should we follow or obey God's authority? It's a great question. I should know this. I'm speaking on it. But after reflecting on it, I think that one big benefit of it would be that when you let God have the keys to your kingdom, when you let Him have those keys, there's a burden that lifts off of you. You can't manage eternity. You can manage sometimes what's right in front of you just barely, and we're kind of clumsy at it. But we can't manage eternity. We've got to give that to God. We've got to go ahead and let Him be what we follow and just manage the authority that He's given us. God's kingdom is eternal. Ours is going to stop at some point. Our kingdom is not going to be forever. I'd rather be worried about what the forever holds. Emmanuel also said this. I don't know if he stole it from somebody, but it was pretty cool. He said, we don't obey then love. We obey because we love. So that's the next part here. I want to talk about the highest priorities of our King. Okay? If we accept Jesus' invitation into His kingdom, there are two main things asked of us. He asks us to prioritize our lives. So this is a good way to remember where this verse is. Gary always says it's lunch with Mark. It's Mark 12:30. It's one of the most important verses you can go to in the Bible. Okay? It talks about a teacher that wants to challenge Jesus to make sure that Jesus knows what he's talking about. He doesn't know if he's truly the Messiah or whatnot. He's trying to figure out who Jesus is, and he goes up and challenges him in Jerusalem. And he says, "Teacher, tell me this. What are the two, oh, sorry, not really two, he said, what are the greatest commandments?" Basically asking, what is our purpose? And Jesus says this. Knowing right away, because he basically wrote this. The most important one, answered Jesus, is this. "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one." How many? One. Y'all cheat? He is one. Okay, so first God establishes this. He says, "I am one. I am not multiple gods. I'm not some God that you've prayed up over here or built. I am the one true God." Okay, that's what he establishes first. And then he goes into the commandment. He said, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind, and with all your strength." That's priority number one. The second is like this: love your neighbor as yourself. There is no commandment greater than these. So let's put this into play in God's kingdom. These are his highest priorities. Love God with everything that we have, and love others with everything God gives us. In that order. Loving others that are inside and outside of the kingdom. He wants us to participate in building his kingdom. He doesn't want us to build our own little kingdom inside of his. That's where I've been a lot of my life. Whenever I've put pride or lust in front of God, among tons of other issues that I've had, that's where God makes it really uncomfortable for me. I've been very blessed to be in a Christian home to where I feel like I've known God as an authority. God bless you. And I feel like I've known that, but my rebellious nature still wants to put things in front of him. So I need to recognize that when I start to mix that up and I'm not loving God first in my life, and I throw anything above that, then I'm missing the priorities. Whenever we put anything in front of God, that's when we start building our own kingdom. I love the message that Care Pastor Brett said a couple of weeks ago. He talked about it being that we are what we love. Okay, not what we think, but we are what we love. So that's how we analyze where our priorities are in life. Is God number one? Are we pushing our own agenda? Or are we committed to his? Accepting the invite is an attitude adjustment. If you look back up here in Mark 12:30, it says, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and all your strength." The first three of those are internal. Okay? That is something that's adjusting from the inside out. Okay? We are supposed to have an attitude change, an actual heart change. It's a heart condition, a heart shift. It's a recognition that we're under authority to serve God, and we have his priorities in mind. Jesus says our purpose is to, in all people, is to love God and love others. Sorry, I have a little bit of cold I'm trying to get through, so if I'm squeaking around, that's my excuse. So, we all have one common purpose. It's right there on the screen. This is what's instilled. This is what Jesus said we are to do. Okay? He didn't say that you have to have an ununique life, just have a very mundane life. He said that you're all going to have certain passions, and we're all going to have passions. I like to play golf. Most people think that's boring. Okay, so that's my passion. That's one of my passions. Okay, but so when we think that we're stuck on this as our purpose, this is something that's actually relieves us. Okay, this is something that we know that's our purpose. Now we can build off of that within our passions. We all have a circle of influence that we are involved with. A circle of influence where I can't touch the people that you guys can touch. And God's going to give you authority in those relationships. He's going to give you the ability to actually communicate in those relationships and to be a movement that can change lives. Okay? Just by understanding your authority in that, but giving God the authority above that. Okay? Actually, we're going to go to close here, so the band can come on back up. I just want to tell a quick story, a story in closing about a really cool individual. Is that more for me? Thank you very much. I need this. I'm going to drink this now. I gave Chris juice a couple weeks ago. He didn't drink it the whole time. I was a little frustrated by that, so. No, I'm just kidding. So this story is about a really cool individual. He lived, this story takes place about 150 some years ago. Okay, so this is not a biblical story. This is a part of our American history and actually world history. Have you guys ever heard of Joshua Chamberlain? Okay, Joshua Chamberlain's a pretty cool dude. I saw Josh fist pump back there because it's his name probably. Joshua Chamberlain lived during the Civil War. He was a school teacher. That's what he was supposed to do. He was supposed to just go teach people how, different things in the classroom. He wasn't supposed to lead an army, but God had other plans. God put on his heart to go in and to register immediately upon the war starting. And so that automatically, they were like, oh sweet, somebody's volunteering. We'll make him a colonel. He's like, I teach people how to learn. Like, I learn people things. That's how we talk in the South. So he was in the North though. So he got into this position of authority in a war that he didn't know he was ever going to fight. And on July 2nd, 1863, he ends up in one of the most pivotal battles of all time. It's a battle where there was so much bloodshed. It's known as like one of the worst battles you could have fought in. You guys have heard of Gettysburg, right? So on the outskirts of Gettysburg is a place called Little Round Top. I'm going to put it up there. It looks kind of like this. It doesn't look like something that's super significant, okay? But about 3/4 of the way up that hill, they had built, Joshua Chamberlain and his group of men from Maine had come down there, and they were supposed to hold the line 3/4 of the way up the hill. They had built a little rock wall because they knew that they were supposed to hold that line. That's what they were told by their superiors, hold the line, whatever it costs, because if the Confederates get past that line, they're going to flank us from behind, and they're going to take over this part of the country. And if they do that, then we're probably going to lose this war. And if this war gets lost, we're not going to be a united country anymore. There was a lot of pressure to hold that line, a ton of pressure. And they came up in waves. The Confederate Army came up in waves. First wave comes up, take out a lot of the Union Army. Second wave comes up, take out a ton more. They start to push, the Union Army pushes them back down a second time. The third time, the Confederate Army comes back up, and Joshua Chamberlain gets shot. Gets shot right in the middle of his body. He thinks he's out, but it hit his belt buckle, okay? So that's how fortunate, one, that he is, how blessed he was. It hit him in the belt buckle, got knocked down, thought he was done, got back up, kept fighting. They pushed him down again. The fourth wave came up, and the fifth wave came up. By the time this was happening, there was so much gunpowder in the air that you couldn't really tell who was on whose side anymore. And nobody knew they were just shooting, hoping that they would hit the right person at this point. I mean, it was such hand-to-hand combat, and they were able to push him back down the hill one more time. And then, as Joshua's brother comes up to him, he's got two brothers in this fight with him. His brother comes up and said, listen, we gotta go, right? I mean, we don't have any men left. And Josh says, no, go tell your brother to keep his head down, because we've got 3 of Mom's children in this fight today. It could be a bad day for Mom. That's what he says. He's just as scared as everyone else, but he knew he had to hold the line. Another general walks up to him and says, listen, Josh, I know you're not first in command, but everybody else is not alive anymore, okay? Everybody else is done. You're the last guy. What do we do? He says, well, I'll tell you what. Gather all the ammunition from all the dead and all the wounded, okay? And the guys were like, listen, Josh, we did that last time. We don't have any ammunition left. So at that point in time, a 12-year-old boy was climbing a tree. The 12-year-old boy yells, they're reforming, they're reforming. He was talking to, there was another army joining up with the Confederate Army down there. There was Alabama and there was Texas joining up to come back up the hill to try to fight them again. And they turn to Josh one more time and says, what do we do? Josh is like, okay, in his mind, I've got three options. I can either surrender, I can run, or I can fight. Those are my options. I don't have much to do here. I don't have anything else. But they said, well, what do we do? He said, well, prepare the great right wheel. And one of the other generals was like, I don't know what that is. Okay, what do we prepare? And the other general said, that's a charge. And he's like, what? And Josh says, fasten your bayonets. You guys know what a bayonet is? That's a knife. To put it on the gun. That's a knife. They're bringing knives to a gun battle. It says, fasten your bayonets. And as they got into formation, before anybody could even process what was going on, they just got information. They knew what to do, but they weren't prepared. Josh said, charge! Pointed his knife down the hill and took off running first. And everybody started following him. Now jump out of the perspective shoes of the Union Army for a second. Jump into the shoes of the Confederate Army. You've been fighting all day against these folks, and you've realized that, man, we've got them beat. We've got more people. Okay, we've got more ammunition. We're on our way to winning this war right now, but all of a sudden I'm seeing some crazy people run down the hill charging me. They've got to have reinforcements. That day, 80 people from the Union Army captured 400 people from the Confederate Army. It's an incredible story. 80 people charged without ammunition and got 400 people freaked out enough to where they could win that battle. They didn't have a chance. Nobody on paper would say that they would win this battle. See, everything that we do matters. God has given us all authority. Joshua's main authority in that situation was to his country and to his superiors. He had to follow their will in order to win that battle. If he would have ever decided to switch and think of just his brothers or just himself, they would have lost that battle. This country would not be united right now. And when Hitler decided to try to take over the world, the U.S. wouldn't have been able to help. This world could be a whole different structure just if that one decision would have been different. So we have a ton of authority here. But we need to understand what the authority is that guides us. Authority above us. Imagine if we took the hill. We all have battles in our jobs, our family, our friends, tons of different battles to face. The question is, which king are we going to rely on? In any kingdom, we live and die by the king. There's just one kingdom out there, though, where the king already died. The king already died. But the crazy thing is that death couldn't stop him. Okay? Death can stop us. It can't stop him. His kingdom's now, it's forever. Isn't that a blessing? It'd be awesome to serve in his army. Wouldn't that be fantastic? Man. Well, guys, I'm going to close this in a quick word of prayer. God, thank you so much for just being here tonight, just being with us, for just being the power that's inside of us, God. Nothing that we do could be done without you. Allow us to realize that you have all the authority, God, in heaven and on earth. We are thankful for that. We're thankful for the fact that you give us freedom, God, to choose you, that you're not forcing us into a loving relationship, God. That's not even possible. We realize that. So thank you so much for the choice. Thank you, God. We praise you so much for just all the glory and the power and the kingship that you have. So allow us to recognize that on a day-to-day basis. Allow us to fight battles with your strength. With you taking up our keys, God. Thank you so much. We love you and we praise you in all things.